So I thought I'd make a video talking about some things that would be really nice to know when you're first embarking on your journey, you're growing up, you're figuring stuff out, and you're just starting to figure out what kind of reality do I want to design, what character do I want to be, and you're really in this spot of potential where there's so much that can happen, there's so much possibilities and endless potential, but which way do I go and why? And oftentimes you get so clouded under the influence of other people around you that it sort of detracts you from your path a bit. So that's kind of what the purpose of this video is, to sort of work you through that mentality, that mind, because I'm currently in my old hometown where I used to live for the majority of my life growing up. And it's been a continuous trip for me to be back here, in the sense that I see other people around here that I used to know, people that I used to went to high school with, everywhere else. And I can't help but think that if all you did was ever just stay here in these small towns in the Midwest, small towns really anywhere, there's this vast amount of potential out there of what you could have been that you will never figure out. And so I think that if you do live in a small town, you have to really understand that to a certain degree, you're going to be under an element of brainwashing in your small local community that is going to be very hard to see how actually deeply that's affecting you until you get out and explore the world. Now, that's exactly what I did when I was 18. I was kind of at a point in my life where I just couldn't live in a small town anymore. I was made for the city in that sense. I was almost made for California. I was made for something bigger, and that was always within me. I could feel it. But living in a small town where they just value, cows and corn and, hillbilly stuff, it was never really where I was supposed to be. And so one thing that when you're just figuring out your life, you have to also understand that your environment is very important and crucial for the development of your character and lack thereof, right? I was in a situation where I was just at the wrong place, kind of at the wrong time, and was staying there perpetually because I had no money. I couldn't escape. I couldn't do all these things. And so I just kind of found myself in a position of endlessly trying to escape or figure myself out, when in fact, when I just moved to Arizona, later moved to California and other places that were really helpful for me to figure myself out, everything changed for me, everything clicked, because I was simply just in a place where I actually belonged. So when you're first beginning your journey in life, when you're 18, 17, 16, whatever it is, you're just trying to figure out who you want to be, the number one thing that you have to understand is that parents, friends, people around you, they're going to play a very pivotal role in deciding for you in many ways who you're going to be. And if you at all feel like you're meant for something greater, something bigger, you have to take everything in your power to almost like not listen to those forces and just go your own way. And people will say that, you're fucking up your life, you're doing this or that, you're not going to college, you're wasting your youth trying to find yourself or be spiritual, or go to Sedona, Arizona and be crazy and homeless or whatever. There's all these things that people say to you when you're like just trying to decipher your reality, trying to decipher yourself. Why am I here? What's my purpose? Stuff that's actually more important than just working a job and getting a house payment, getting a car payment, getting all this kind of crazy stuff. You're going to battle this resistance of those who are not choosing the same path as you. And it's not to say that their path or your path is better or worse or whatever. It's just when you're a person that values an entirely different ecosystem of reality, things that are almost entirely of the internal world and the internal makeup of what's important to you, and those that are around you just value material, whether they have a lot or not, you're going to not be very compatible when it comes to understanding each other's goals or ambitions. And it's almost better to just not really talk to too many people that are not like you. Now, when you're young, that's really an important stage. You have to figure out who you want to be and just lock into that. You gotta lock in. You gotta find the character that you want to be, own it, add all these attributes over top of your character to be it. Sometimes even fake it to a certain degree because it's what you want to be. You're not that thing yet, but you're trying to be, so it almost feels like fakery. You just have to go in that direction of that form that you want to turn into. And you have to value that form. have to value that higher potential that you can be. And in the face of not being that thing yet, you're gonna feel like you're a fraud. You're gonna feel like everything sucks. People are getting ahead of me because they're just going to get a job and everything's getting better for them, and they're gaining all this material status. They're making more money. They have a nicer car. They have a house. And here you are just valuing things of like feelings, how I feel, my happiness level, my degree of how much I'm aging to a certain extent. That's a whole other thing, but you're valuing an entirely different ecosystem of reality and not getting the result, while other people are getting the result because they're following the plan. That's going to be hard to deal with, and I think that's our biggest problem here that we're going to be facing as a society, is this split in the timeline, this split between those that want to maintain the old world and those that want to embrace the new one. And it's not to say again that like old is worse, new is better. It's not really like that. It's just we have developed our world so much now that we have all this technology, all this amazing stuff, AI, everything. And it allows for us to do so much more things than we ever had thought possible. And to a certain extent, our reality and how we're processing reality is almost becoming like a type of psychic technology. And so because there's so many vast array of options and things for you to do, the thing that most people might actually do is actually just not choose any of it at all and just stick to the old pattern, stick to the old way. So when I'm back here in these small towns, small local areas, and I see everyone else that stayed here, that's all I see is just a fear of not wanting to embrace the utmost potential of what you could have ever been. In fear of not having a house, not having shelter, not having a job, not maintaining the status quo of what your peers and friends and family thought that you should do. You have to find a way, especially when you're a young person, because when you're older, it gets harder to do this. You have to find a way to just morph your identity into one thing and just be that thing entirely, and just make it entirely your identity. And just stick with it, figure it out, harden yourself to a certain degree, not listen to outside voices, not listen to what your parents think, what your friends think. Just go your own direction. And that's the only way that you're ever going to learn really anything truly useful at all, is when you're able to just take your reality and decide this is who you want to be. And now you're that thing now. And no one can tell you otherwise, because it actually puts you in the front seat of the character that you're becoming. See, most people live on autopilot. They live on autopilot. That's why they get the job. That's why they get the job. That's why they get the car insurance, the health insurance, the house payment, the boyfriend, girlfriend, the kid. It's an autopilot lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that's so easy to do. The thing that you're doing is the hardest thing to do possible. It's to decide for yourself who you want to be and go in the direction of whatever your mind is telling you, whatever that inner voice is telling you. Going in that direction exclusively is harder than living an autopilot life where you just do what society tells you to do. It's so easy to get a job and just work there for 40 years and do fuck all with your life. It's so easy to do it. And these people will act like they're the ones that are superior to you because they somehow think that they did the hard thing, and you appear to be doing nothing because you just value happiness, you value the essence of how you're curating your reality and the rate at how much you're degenerating to a certain degree, which a lot of people around in these places, they do degenerate quite quickly. When you're a younger person, you have to go in the direction of you. What am I being pulled to? Where is my reality taking me? What is that thing that's out there that's just trying to pull me in all these different directions, and how can I go those directions, mess up, fail, win a few times, fail again, and keep trying? If you go down that path, the path that no one in a way wants you to go down because everyone wants to try to protect you, if you go down that path, everything is going to work out for you. And by the time you're 18, 19, and you're 20, you're 25, and now I'm 30, it'll become more increasingly clear of those who actually did the inner work and the progress that it takes to morph yourself into an entirely different person. It'll be a lot more clear those who did that and those who didn't. And that real split occurs when you're about 30, when you turn 40 and 50 and so on. who you turned into, that initial starting point begins when you're 18, when you're 19.